We just heard the FBI director say hundreds, maybe thousands of ISIS recruits are already here, lured in by social media and ready to strike the United States. Now the Attorney General saying this.
We're certainly using all the tools available to us to determine how social media is being used. But as always, we have to balance that with with every individual's right to free speech, with privacy rights. Those are very, very important concerns.
Important, yes, but when it comes to tracking down ISIS in America, are we being too PC? Welcome, everyone. I'm Charles Payne in for Neil Cavuto, and this is Your World. Do suspected ISIS terrorists deserve the same rights as law-abiding Americans? Retired Green Beret Ben Collins says protecting the public should be the top priority. All right, Ben, well, you heard the Attorney General, and, you know, obviously everyone thinks about this, the First Amendment, speaking up, but when you put this kind of stuff on social media, your intent to join ISIS, your intent to hurt Americans, I think you start to lose a lot of rights.
No, I would agree, Charles, and I think they should be held accountable for what they're putting there. I mean, this is, you know, the discussion about privacy versus freedom is something that we've had and we should continue to have. You know, it's a very important dialogue. I mean, this is something if you look at in history, we've certainly seen before, right? If you look at something to the other extreme, remember that in World War II, FDR. You know, we put an entire you know, generation almost of Japanese in internment camps. Under the name of staying safe, which I think we can all agree on is certainly not the right thing to do. In this case, you know, the difference here is we actually have probable cause, right? So when you actually have these individuals that come out on social media and say, it is my intent to harm Americans in the United States, I think they should be held accountable for it.
So Ben, let me jump in then. Let me ask you then. So that someone says, I want to join ISIS, I want to harm my fellow Americans. There's your probable cause. What's the next step? Are they arrested? Obviously, we've interrogated a lot of these people. We've interviewed them. Even a gyrocopter guy was interviewed. But then it seems like we dropped the ball.
Well, when you say drop the ball, you know, it's very hard, I think, to I think the bigger picture here is actually tying, you know, some of the local law enforcement organizations, you know, all the way down to these local sheriff's department and counties to the national broader intelligence organizations. You know, you've got different resources that are available to these organizations, and we need to ensure that they're actually speaking to each other. But, you know, I think, Charles, really, if we look at it from a bigger picture, I think, you know, it was telling that she made this announcement, certainly, you know, on the wake of announcing that she was going to launch an investigation into the Baltimore Police Department. And the two things are you know, they are tied. You know, I think we're focusing on certainly some of the wrong issues here at times, and we're not looking at it from a broader sense.
But Ben, do we actually arrest these people when they go on social media and say, I want to join ISIS, I want to hurt people because of whatever, I don't like America, I don't like the values of America? When they state that, is that probable cause enough to go out and actually detain them, and how long could we keep them?
So, yeah, look, I'm not going to pretend to be a lawyer in this case. You know, I think somebody offering support for ISIS, saying, look, I believe in their message, you know, again, it's not something we like to hear, but are they crossing a line? I mean, I think the courts are going to have to decide that, to be honest. Look, as a citizen, you know, I can say that if somebody comes and, you know, on Facebook or Twitter and says, you know, I am going to join ISIS and I'm going to play my role in harming Americans, I think that should be grounds for somebody to be held. You know, it's your right to say it, but it's also my right to protect my my society.
You know, and I do agree. You know, we think back to 9/11 and how much intel we had amongst the different agencies who didn't communicate with each other. And again, to see that sort of thing repeated, it's very problematic. I mean, you've been involved with the military. Whose responsibility is that? Does that have to come from way on high and filter down to all law enforcement levels?
I do, and I mean, I think we've certainly taken a right step. You know, part of the problem, unfortunately, though, is bureaucracies tend to become bureaucratic, and they're slow to move. So, you know, under the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, and when you start adding 25 or 30 different organizations, you know, it's not just culturally different inside of these, but their leaders have to work together to ensure that they're cooperating. And it's all about timeliness, right, Charles? I mean, it's getting that information, tying the clues together in a timely fashion so that our law enforcement can actually do it. But, you know, I'd like to see us actually start focusing. Look, let's focus on, you know, why is there such a hotbed of, you know, why are they able to recruit?
Well,
right?
yeah, I mean,
do
that's
we
a whole
have
different
an
thing. But for me, the fact that they're using social media as a double-edged sword, because it also gives us the ability to watch them very carefully, and to your point, maybe act before it's too late. Hey, Ben Collins, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
It's good to see you, Charles. Thank
you. Too. Now to Jennifer Griffin, who's at the Pentagon, where they are actually beefing up security due to ISIS threats. Jennifer.
Hi, Charles. Well, I'm told there is no single reason the military did this. It's the first time since the 10th anniversary of 9/11 that the U.S. military has raised its force protection levels. The head of U.S. Northern Command, Admiral Bill Gortney, ordered the protection level raised to Bravo, which means more security checks, more security guards, unexpected drills due to a, quote, predictable terrorist threat, in this case involving ISIS. The Pentagon followed suit. Signs at the entrance to the building this morning reminded those arriving that the security level was now FP-Con Bravo. The idea, defense officials tell me, is to keep would-be attackers off guard. U.S. Northcom placed its headquarters at Peterson and Shriver Air Force Base on the heightened alert, as well as installations such as Cheyenne Mountain to reassure military families who have been threatened directly in internet postings by ISIS in recent weeks. The decision to order elevated security levels at U.S. military installations comes a day after FBI Director James Comey warned that ISIS followers in the U.S. are being urged to strike. The Pentagon issued the following statement, quote, "We share the same concern about the potential threat posed by homegrown violent extremists, as discussed publicly by Director Comey and others. While our FP-Con change is not tied to a specific credible threat, recent events have led us to recognize the need to take prudent steps to ensure our FP-Con measures can be increased." The National Museum of the U.S. Air Force in Dayton, Ohio, has canceled its spring concert tonight due to elevated security levels at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, as just one example, Charles, of how serious the military is taking this heightened security alert.
Wow. Thank you very much, Jennifer Griffin. That is amazing. Now to Wall Street, which also had a pretty amazing day. Stocks taking off. The Dow surged 267 points. It was fueled by the latest jobs numbers. Now, they don't look great, right? 223,000 jobs landed last month. The unemployment rate did dip to a 7-year low, but the report was not too strong. They're calling it Goldilocks because investors are now betting it will keep the Fed from hiking interest rates probably until late this year or maybe next year. The Dow finishing a very choppy week with a gain of 166 points and near an all-time high. To Baltimore, despite critics blasting a rush to judgment for these 6 officers, are we now rushing to review all officers?